The Genetics and Aging Unit at Massachusetts General Hospital is one of the nation's leading centers searching for an answer to the fundamental question: how does Alzheimer's get started in the first place?
In Alzheimer's disease, the main thing that goes wrong is loss of synapses. What's most critical in terms of maintaining memory when synapses are lost is that you need to reestablish these synapses, usually by neighboring nerve cells. In Alzheimer's, when you lose a synapse and you want the nerve cells next door to compensate and reestablish it, well, those nerve cells are being attacked too.
Most scientists believe the key to the attack is the formation of plaques. They start with an abnormal buildup of a substance called amyloid. Amyloid occurs naturally in the body in many kinds of cells. But somehow, in the brain, it takes a toxic form that destroys nerve cells and erases memory.
Actually, that's a pretty good...
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Tansey was a pioneer in trying to figure out what caused this cycle of destruction. But he started out working on something completely different.
I got into Alzheimer's disease basically because I was building a genetic map of chromosome number 21, studying Down syndrome. Honestly, I picked chromosome 21 because it was the smallest chromosome, and as a student, I thought I wanted to build the first genetic linkage map of a whole chromosome. And I spoke with my advisor, and he said, well, pick the smallest one. You'll finish fastest. So I picked chromosome 21, not knowing where it was going to take me.
While Tansey was mapping chromosome 21, he came across an intriguing coincidence. Tissue samples from brains of patients with Down syndrome all had the same plaques that are found in Alzheimer's disease. Since Down syndrome is caused by an extra copy of chromosome 21, Tansey had a hunch that if there were a gene causing Alzheimer's, it might be on that same chromosome.
Chromosome 21 was, back then was my baby. It was before, this was pre-Human Genome Project, and I had the map of chromosome 21. So if it was chromosome 21, it was like, okay, I'm going to find it then. That's my chromosome. So these are the original experiments that were done in 1985, 86 to isolate the first Alzheimer's gene, the APP gene. Each one of these little dots represents a spot on a petri dish where you might have the correct gene. This is how we did it in the old days.
The tiny spots turned out to be a major discovery, a gene for a protein called APP.
What APP is normally doing is if this is the cell surface, this is the surface of a nerve cell, APP will stick out like this. And it's interacting with other proteins, and it can be involved with synapses to maintain synapses, to maintain memories. It's playing a vital role with just nerve cell interactions. And after a while, this APP is no good. It has to be turned over. So it will get clipped outside of the surface, and part of it will be shed.
If the APP protein is clipped in the right place, it floats off harmlessly. But in Alzheimer's disease, the clips happen not at the surface of the cell, but just above and just below. The result is a toxic fragment called beta amyloid, which starts the relentless destruction of the brain.
If you make too much of this and it's allowed to accumulate, it will eventually sequester together and form an amyloid plaque or an amyloid deposit in the blood vessel.
It turned out that the gene Tansey found on chromosome 21 was key to a particularly vicious form of Alzheimer's that strikes early in life. It had a mutation, a mistake in its DNA spelling, that produced a flood of beta amyloid in the brain. There are two other genes on different chromosomes that also have a variety of mutations that cause early Alzheimer's. These mutations are rare, but they taught researchers a significant lesson. because they all produce the same disastrous result.
So what we learned about the early onset genes is all 150 mutations discovered so far do the same thing. They increase the production of beta amyloid in the brain.
Genetic mutations cause less than 5% of all cases of Alzheimer's. But it was that first gene on chromosome 21 that was the key to the Noonan family's tragedy. Their mother, Julia, had the mutation on that gene which caused early Alzheimer's. And that meant that each of Julia's 10 children had a 50-50 chance of inheriting the same deadly mutation. And by 1996, there was already another victim. Almost at the same time as Fran, another sister, Maureen, found out she had Alzheimer's. She died 5 years later. She was 58 years old. Now, Julie and her brothers and sisters all have to live with the fact that any one of them could be next.
Leaves you feeling extremely vulnerable.
All right. Don't worry. That only happens once.
I worry about forgetting. Sometimes I get angry and I think, is this an overreaction? And then if it is an overreaction, is this the beginning signs of Alzheimer's?
If Julie has inherited the gene, her 2 teenage daughters might have to see their mother disappear, just as Julie did.
Look at your chance next time.
I hope to God that I don't have the gene. They'd have to go through living with me. And that's extremely painful to think about.